A girl returns home after being released from a mental hospital, only to find the family she left behind has become even more terrifying. Her cruel stepmother is hiding dark secrets. Her younger sister claims something is haunting the house, and every room seems to hold a memory someone wants buried forever. But as the nightmares become more real, Sumi discovers a horrifying truth. The monster she's been fighting may not be living inside the house. It may be living inside her own mind, because the biggest secret of this family isn't what happened that night. It's what Sumi's broken memory refuses to let her remember. But before we uncover the terrifying truth behind this twisted family mystery, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon, because here, we uncover the darkest stories, hidden secrets, and shocking endings from movies you won't forget. The film opens with a nurse bringing Sumi into a clinical room at a mental hospital. Sumi sits quietly with her head lowered, looking exhausted and withdrawn. The doctor shows her a family photograph and presses her to speak, asking about the trauma of that day, but Sumi refuses, staring blankly with a distant expression. The camera lingers on her hands, which are covered in what appears to be dried blood. The scene shifts to a drive down to the family's country estate. Moo-hyun, Sumi's father, drives the girls to the house and asks them to come out and meet their stepmother. Instead, the girls explore the grounds, running through the property and relaxing near a dock by the water, before eventually encountering their intense stepmother, Yoonju. Yoonju attempts to win them over. The girls ignore her. The two sisters move through the house together, reoccupying rooms they have not been inside for some time. Sumi sets the clock in her room and begins unpacking. Her attention shifts toward a wardrobe. She walks carefully toward it and opens the door slowly to find her mother's clothes hanging neatly inside. The house is the same house, same furniture, same arrangement, and for Sumi, that sameness carries the dark memory of everything that happened inside it, undisturbed. Yoonju occupies the house with the thin, practiced authority of someone who has learned to manage a space she was not originally meant to belong to. She moves through the rooms on a schedule, handles the household's daily needs with efficient attention, and presents herself to the girls with a surface of careful composure. She was the nurse brought in to care for the girl's mother during her illness, and somewhere in the long months of that work, she became something else entirely to Moo-hyun. The affair began while his wife was still alive, still present in the house. By the time Sumi returns from the institution, Yoonju is Moo-hyun's wife, and the house is hers to run. In his room, Moo-hyun talks on the phone about how things are not going well, then ends the call. He reaches for a cigarette, finds no lighter, and tosses it aside in frustration. Later, the family sits down to dinner. The mood is quiet and tense. Yoonju tries to talk to Moo-hyun about inviting her brother Sun-kyu and his wife, Mi-hee, for dinner. He ignores her and excuses himself. Yoonju turns to the girls and instructs them not to do any cleaning in the house. Sumi tells her not to touch her belongings or bother with her room. She also rejects the idea of dinner with Sun-kyu and walks out. Sumi's resentment toward Yoonju is obvious from the start, and she makes little effort to hide how she feels, rooted in what she witnessed during her mother's illness and what she knows about the night her mother died. Soo-yeon catches up with her sister. Sumi tells her to pay attention to any strange behavior Eunju directs at her and to report it immediately. Soo-yeon nods. Later, Eunju moves quietly through the house, stops to whisper to a small bird in her garden, then goes to the master bedroom and waits for Moo-hyun. He doesn't join her. He retreats to his study to sleep. In Soo-yeon's bedroom, a figure creeps into the room. Soo-yeon pulls her blanket over herself as it draws closer. The figure peels the blanket from her face. Soo-yeon looks up, and the figure vanishes. Soo-yeon goes to Sumi's room and presses herself close under the blanket. Sumi reads her sister's silence and gently asks if she had a nightmare. Soo-yeon says she has been hearing strange noises outside. Sumi smiles, rubs her face, and reassures her that it's nothing, just the unfamiliarity of being back in the house after so long. Then, Soo-yeon whispers that someone came into her room. The words stop Sumi cold. Sumi goes downstairs and finds the television on. She checks the living room, finds no one, then moves to her father's study and finds him asleep on the sofa. She notices he is cold and covers him. Yoonju appears behind her and tells her to leave him and not wake him. Sumi turns, shoots her stepmother a look of pure disdain, and walks out. Yoonju stops her, asking what she wanted to tell Moo-hyun. Sumi tells her it is none of her business and continues to the kitchen for water. At the refrigerator, Sumi catches a foul smell. She looks around and finds a dead bird, bloodied and wrapped in a sheet. She screams. Yoonju watches her coldly from the living room. Back in her room, Soo-yeon asks if Sumi found out who entered her room. Sumi holds her close and rubs her hair slowly before telling her it was their stepmother. She tells Soo-yeon there is something strange about Yoonju in the house, then reassures her that she has nothing to fear. Sumi has a nightmare. A distorted figure crawls through her room and reaches her bed. She screams herself awake. In the morning, the sisters move through the house together, talking and laughing. They sit outside and whistle their late mother's favorite song. Moo-hyun comes out and coaxes them inside because of the cold. He notices Sumi looks pale and asks if she is all right. She tells him she is fine, then asks him to remove the wardrobe from Soo-yeon's room. It causes her sister distress. The wardrobe carries a dark significance. It is where their mother took her own life. Soo-yeon was the first to find her. He acknowledges her anger and asks her not to think of him as a bad father. Sumi says she doesn't. He urges both girls inside. The conversation ends without resolution. The next morning, Sumi walks into the forest and senses she is being followed. She finds a storage shed and goes inside. Among her mother's belongings, she finds old photographs. Yoonju, in her earlier role as nurse, standing close to Moo-hyun during the long months of her mother's illness, in ways that confirm what Sumi already suspected. The photographs add nothing new to her understanding. They simply give shape to what was already there, and that confirmation carries its own weight. Soo-yeon walks in and finds her. Sumi hides the photos and says nothing. The two sisters go through their mother's jewelry and shoes together. Then, Sumi notices bruises on Soo-yeon's arms. She asks what happened. Soo-yeon doesn't answer. She starts to cry and runs out of the room. Sumi goes straight to the living room and confronts Yoonju, asking her directly why she is so cruel to them. Yoonju does not deny it. She calls it discipline. Anyone who disobeys her gets punished. She offers no apology and challenges Sumi to go to her father and see what he does about it. She warns Sumi to stop living in a fantasy where everything is perfect. Moo-hyun overhears the exchange from the bathroom and does not come out. Sumi hurls Yoonju's teacup and saucer to the floor. She retreats to a corner, crying. Moo-hyun comes to console her. She doesn't want him to touch her. He grabs her wrist when she tries to walk away. He tells her to stop causing problems and let the household run as it needs to. Then his tone softens. He says he doesn't know what is going on and asks her to speak freely. Sumi tells him that talking changes nothing. Moo-hyun warns her not to go down that road, or she will get sick again. Sumi tells him she has nothing to say, that whatever filth he has brought into the house and whatever happens next is his fault. She leaves him standing there. That evening, Yoonju's brother Sun-kyu and his wife Mi-hee arrive for dinner. At dinner, Yoonju suddenly becomes unusually cheerful and talkative. She starts telling stories about Sun-kyu, recalling specific conversations and incidents she claims happened between them. The problem is that Sun-kyu has no memory of any of it. At first, he politely corrects her, but as she continues, he stops trying to be polite altogether. Even then, Yoonju keeps talking as if nothing is wrong. The conversation grows increasingly uncomfortable, but no one at the table addresses the obvious tension. The uncomfortable dinner takes a disturbing turn when Yoonju asks Sun-kyu if he's crazy for denying her claims. Moments later, Mi-hee begins coughing violently and collapses from her chair. She convulses on the floor, and no one can hold her still until Sun-kyu forces pills into her mouth. The couple leaves as soon as she recovers. Driving out of the estate, Mi-hee tells her husband she saw something frightening in the house. A strange, distorted figure beneath the kitchen sink. Back inside, Yoonju stands at the sink, staring at the spot where Mi-hee's gaze had fixed during her episode. A cabinet door creaks open. Yoonju steps closer and checks beneath the sink. She finds nothing, until she spots a familiar black hairpin. She reaches for it. A dark hand from under the sink lunges for her wrist. She screams and pulls back. In the corner of her vision, a figure in a green gown sits in a chair. In the bedroom, Yoonju tells Moo-hyun what she saw. She blames the girls, saying strange things have been happening since they returned. Moo-hyun dismisses it and tells her to rest. Yoonju insists something is in the house. To appease her, he promises to look around. He does, and finds that Yoonju's birds have been killed. He tells her. Furious, Yoonju goes after Soo-yeon, but finds her asleep. Her anger shifts when she notices photographs of herself scattered across the room, defaced and mutilated. She wakes Soo-yeon, then finds another dead bird tucked under her pillow. Yoonju attacks Soo-yeon and drags her to the wardrobe, the same wardrobe, in the same room where their mother died, and locks her inside. She throws the defaced pictures in after her and threatens to leave her there until she apologizes. Soo-yeon apologizes, but Yoonju keeps the door shut. The noise wakes Sumi. She rushes out and glimpses her stepmother's shadow disappearing down the hall. She enters Soo-yeon's room and finds it in disarray, lamps and furniture scattered across the floor. She opens the wardrobe and the sisters embrace, Sumi apologizing for not being there. Moo-hyun, frustrated and confused, confronts Sumi. He asks why she has been causing problems since her return. Sumi tells him the problem is obvious. He has simply chosen not to see it. She asks Soo-yeon to tell their father directly what Yoonju has been doing to her. Soo-yeon stays silent, too shaken to speak. Moo-hyun tells Sumi to stop. Then he tells her that Soo-yeon is dead, that Sumi pulled her body out herself, and that she needs to face that. Tears run down his face as he says it. Soo-yeon begins to scream. Sumi shakes her head, refusing to accept that her sister is nothing more than a fragment of her own fractured mind. The following morning, Moo-hyun calls someone and reports that Sumi's condition has worsened. Elsewhere in the house, Yoonju drags a heavy bloodied sack along the corridor floor with visible effort, offering no explanation for what is inside it or where she is taking it. Sumi wakes, disoriented. She finds a note slipped under her door, reads it, and goes to Soo-yeon's room. She knocks and calls her name, but the door is barred. The house feels suddenly vast and empty. Then she hears Soo-yeon's voice somewhere close. She follows it, and finds only a long trail of blood leading to the sack. Convinced Soo-yeon is inside, Sumi tries to open it and goes searching for something to cut it open. She passes through the living room and finds Yoonju sitting quietly, drinking water. Her memory begins to blur. Fragments surface, of herself doing the things she believed Yoonju had done. She follows a second trail of blood into a closet. The sack moves beneath her hands. Before she can open it, Yoonju appears with a kettle of boiling water, telling her she is exhausted by Sumi's drama. Sumi ducks the water and drives a pair of scissors into Yoonju's hand. The two fight until Sumi strikes her head and loses consciousness. Yoonju drags Sumi's semi-conscious body to the living room. She asks how it came to this. The two of them constantly at each other's throat. She reminds Sumi that she once warned her she would regret her behavior. Still unable to move, Sumi asks her for help. Yoonju picks up a heavy sculpture and raises it. The front door opens. Moo-hyun steps in and finds Sumi on the floor, the sculpture broken around her. He carries her to the sofa and revives her. The sack contains nothing but porcelain dolls. There is no Soo-yeon inside. There never was. Turns out the house has only ever been occupied by Moo-hyun and Sumi. Yoonju has never been there. The woman Sumi has been arguing with, accusing, and fighting is not real. She is a personality Sumi created in the image of the woman she blames for her sister's death. Colder, crueler, and impossible to forgive. Sumi killed the birds herself and vandalized the photographs. The fights, the confrontations, the figure dragging the sack through the house, all of it was Sumi. And Soo-yeon was never there either. The sister who sat beside her, whom she comforted, and who appeared whenever she felt alone, existed only in her mind. Unable to accept the tragedy that destroyed her family, Sumi has been clinging to a version of reality where Soo-yeon is still alive, and the blame belongs to someone else. But the truth is far more painful. Sumi was there when everything happened. and she has never been able to forgive herself for being unable to stop it. Moo-hyun contacts the real Eunju, the woman behind the version Sumi created in her mind. When Eunju arrives at the house, she is nothing like the cold, cruel figure in Sumi's mind. She is calmer and far more human. After speaking with Moo-hyun, the two arrange for Sumi to be taken back to the psychiatric institution. At the facility, Eunju visits Sumi directly. She is haunted by her own memory of the day Soo-yeon died. She heard the wardrobe fall, she reached the door, and she did not act in time. That failure has stayed with her. She tries to tell Sumi this, reaching towards some form of reconciliation, and promises to visit regularly. Sumi refuses her. She grips Eunju's arm with sudden force, leaving a bruise in the exact place she had once found one on Soo-yeon, before Eunju pulls free and quietly says goodbye. Back at the family home, Eunju prepares for bed when she hears footsteps somewhere inside the house, followed by the faint sound of someone whistling. The noise pulls her towards Soo-yeon's old bedroom. When she opens the door, she sees the wardrobe at the far end of the room. Suddenly, Soo-yeon's ghost emerges from inside and moves gently toward her. At the psychiatric facility, Sumi sits quietly alone. Moments later, she hears the same whistling tune once again, the melody her mother used to love. Then she sees Soo-yeon. For the first time in a long while, a smile spreads across her face. And that was the heartbreaking truth behind A Tale of Two Sisters, a story where the scariest monster wasn't a ghost, but the pain, guilt, and memories we try to escape. If you enjoyed this psychological horror breakdown, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss another movie recap filled with shocking twists, hidden details, and unforgettable stories. Leave a comment telling us what you think. Was Sumi finally reunited with her sister, or was she still trapped inside her own memories? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.